Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our event. We're just in the preparation stages now. We're delighted that we are with you. Unfortunately, it's a virtual event today. This is going to be an amazing event. We've got a great production team. We've got awesome speakers. They're being pumped in from all over the world. And we're also going to celebrate a lot of amazing packages that have been won awards. So be safe out there. Wear your mask, social distance, and get ready for an exciting 3 days. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Diversity of Thought Summit and the PAC Global Leadership Awards celebration. My name is Jim Downham, and I am the CEO of PAC. As we approach the one-year mark of a world gripped by a pandemic, economic uncertainty, and difficult lockdowns, my message today is simple. Find your inspiration from the collective global efforts of our neighbors, our scientists, our frontline workers, and the technology that has allowed us to stay connected. Although 2020 is a year to forget, it is important to build on the positive outcomes. It has forced all of us to reevaluate what matters most in our lives and encouraged a unified worldwide collaborative effort for the greater good. We must work together to save our planet through a focused environmental effort. We must rebuild and strengthen our economy to benefit all citizens. And we must fight for a just and equal future for all people. The Diversity of Thought Summit will feature inspirational and tough dialogue on past behavior, shared solutions, and an action plan to push forward and thrive beyond 2021. We are committed to doing more than just talking about it. Today, PAC is issuing a call to action and invites you to join us to collaborate, to innovate, to educate, and develop a plan to create a just world. A world that lifts up the voices of everyone and atones for past mistakes. When we act and live in harmony, we will see the power of diversity of thought in our green planet, in our robust economy, and to the benefit of all mankind. We are also here today to celebrate the craft of package brand design and innovation. The PAC Global Leadership Awards mission is to prioritize quality over quantity, global versus regional, and to celebrate the creativity and innovation of packaging. PAC is a not-for-profit association, and we do this really for the love of packaging and not to line our pockets. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to a leader and world-class humanitarian. When I first met Michael, our 30-minute introductory conversation turned into 90 minutes of laughter. It was amazing. He shared his inspirational message of lifting up everyone to lead a better and more fulfilling life. It is entitled, Do Well and Do Good. I have to tell you, I got off the phone excited and inspired, and I expect that after today, you will feel the same. Michael Lee Chin is a prominent philanthropist, having pledged millions to hospitals, to universities, and his highly visible Michael Lee Chin crystal at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. Michael, it's an honor to have you here with us today.
Jim, I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know, at some point in our lives, or better yet, early, there are two things we need to get right. Number one, choose the right heroes. And secondly, ask ourselves the question, why am I here? So when I asked myself the question, why am I here? The answer was unequivocal. Mike, you're here to use the talents that you've been gifted with to do two things: do well, and secondly, do good for society. So I was clear from the get go what my mission was. And to make it even more clear and to remind me every single day, I codified it in terms of my mantra. And the mantra is prosperitas cum caritate. Roughly translated to mean doing well while doing good. So my talk today will focus primarily on those two ways of life. So by way of background, I was born on January the 3rd, 1951 in Port Antonio, Jamaica, a town of 10,000 people. And I was born to a teenaged mother. And when I was born, she was unemployed. In fact, she was unemployed for the first 6 months of my life. So, but luckily for us, we were taken in by the helpers of the local supermarket. So for the first 6 months of my life, that was my mom was unemployed. My teenage orphan mom was unemployed. So I always joke and say, suppose the leading statistician in the world was in Port Antonio on January 3rd, 1951. And the leading statistician was asked the question, tell me, what is the likelihood of this orphan baby or this baby who is born to this teenage orphan mother? What's the likelihood of he finishing high school, Ms. World leading statistician? Unlikely. How about the likelihood of going to university in Canada and doing engineering? Even more unlikely. How about getting into business in Canada, in the financial services business, which is the most competitive business in the world, and being successful in that business, competing against the likes of the big Canadian banks, the large independent mutual fund companies? What's the likelihood of that, Ms. Statistician? Nearly zero. So I consider myself a statistical improbability. Now, that was then. Let's fast forward to today. Guys, do you know what a unicorn is? Well, a unicorn is a rare mythical figure, beast, animal. When was the last time you saw a unicorn? Never. That's how rare it is. In business, a unicorn is a private business that has just exceeded a valuation of 1 billion US dollars. That's a unicorn in business. Now, to be associated with one unicorn is a rarity. How about two? That's not twice as rare. It's more than twice as rare. How about three? How about four? Well, fortunately, and by the way, guys, do you know what a herd of unicorn is called? You'd not believe it. It's called a blessing. So I've been fortunate to be associated with 4 unicorns and $2 billion businesses. The reason why they aren't unicorns is because they're public. So that's $6 billion businesses. So the question is, how is that possible? That this baby, 70 years later, could be making this could have this track record. But it's possible because early in my career as a financial advisor, I thought to myself, what is the highest value I can give to clients? And the answer kept coming back to me, make them wealthy. Oh, this was back in 1977. So the sequel question was, is there a formula that if you practice consistently, the only outcome is wealth? That was my code to break in 1977 when I was 26 years old. So I studied, I observed, we didn't have Google then. And even today, if you Googled it, what's the formula to create wealth? Nothing will come up. Only a bunch of books, people trying to make money off of you by selling books. But I figured it out by 1978, 1 year later. And here's what I concluded. I concluded that wealth is created by anywhere in the world by doing the following 5 things. Number 1, own a few high quality businesses. Number 2, make sure that those businesses are in strong long-term growth industries. Number 3, make sure you really understand those few businesses. Number 4, make sure that those businesses are domiciled in strong long-term growth industries. And number 5, once you own a great business, you simply hold it for the long term. That's how wealth is created anywhere and everywhere. So my job now was just to make sure that I had a discipline to execute on that faithfully. Secondly, so that's the codification of how investors behave. Let us take a look now at the characteristics of the business that wealthy people own to become wealthy. Firstly, the businesses usually are owner operated. Secondly, there's heavy concentration of ownership in the business, of the business. Thirdly, there's usually personal identification between the business and the owner and the business. Give you an example. When you think of Apple, who comes to mind? Steve Jobs. When you think of Steve Jobs, who comes to mind? Apple. So there's personal identification between the business and the owner and the business. Fourthly, the business, wealth creating businesses are usually, decisions are made not by a democratic process, but invariably by an autocratic process. Fifthly, there's low turnover of management in wealth creating businesses. Sixthly, the businesses always think long term. Seventhly, every day, the mind of the business thinks, how do I grow this baby? Growth, growth, growth is the imperative. Additionally, the validation of success for these wealth creating businesses will be a function of margins, market growth, revenue growth, market share, customer satisfaction. So what I've done, I've codified these characteristics of investor behavior and the characteristics of wealth creating businesses. And over the last 40 years, I've just lived them. That's how we created the 4 unicorns and the $2 billion, multi-billion dollar businesses. So all of us, in the second point I also made earlier was we have to choose the right heroes. And if you can choose the right heroes early in life, it's a big advantage. So I've codified that also into, you want to be successful at any endeavor, there's a 3-step formula. Number 1, identify a role model. Number 2, ask the role model, how did you do it? And number 3, don't put your thumbprint on it, execute it faithfully. So we are all in a privileged position today that we're leaders. So we have to show leadership, especially in times of crisis, which we are in now. So what I'm going to do is break down the word leadership into its letter form and speak to each letter. So L, legacy, leaders, think about their legacy and they think long term. At the end of the day, we want to make sure we are remembered for something. Our behavior today will be our history tomorrow. So make sure that our behavior is conscious that everything we do accretes to our reputation and our eventual legacy. E, leaders have an enduring value system framework and they make decisions by principles, by frameworks. A value system, they also have excellence in standard based on openness, honesty, transparency, integrity, meritocracy, and excellence. These characteristics help to raise confidence and give us the courage to handle tough situations with confidence, and sacrifices become easy and natural. A, aspiration. Leaders aspire, and they're always aspiring. I'm 70, and my aspirations are no different from when I was 20. Make no little plan. They have no magic to stir men's blood, and probably themselves will never be realized. Make big plans. Aim high in hope and work, remembering that a noble logical diagram, once recorded, will never die. But long after we're gone, will be a living thing, asserting itself with everlasting insistency. Daniel Burnham. Aspiration is the main fuel for progress. Aspiration transforms a set of ordinary people into extraordinary human beings, extraordinary achievers. It provides the mental and physical energy for people to convert plausible impossibilities into convincing possibilities. D. Leaders are disciplined, and they always think every day, how am I making sure that I'm differentiated in the marketplace? So leaders aren't afraid to swim upstream, because in fact, when they swim down, when the tide is carrying them, they get nervous. So being differentiated is actually the antidote to being commoditized. And as we know, every business over time will be commoditized. And if we are not thinking every day, how do I make sure I avert commoditization? We will be commoditized. It's as natural as gravity. E, leaders have emotional control of their emotions. Warren Buffett, when he was asked once, Warren, how come you're so successful? His response was, to be successful over the long run doesn't require stratospheric IQ. Whew, thank God for that. Unusual business insight or any particular inside information. What's needed, though, is a sound intellectual framework for making decisions, and secondly, the ability to keep one's emotions from corroding one's framework. So what he's saying basically is, ladies and gentlemen, if your framework, your principles, your value system isn't absolute, it's very difficult to control your emotions. Conversely, if your framework is absolute, during bad times or good times, when you have an issue to deal with, you shine the issue against the background of your framework, and the answer will come ricocheting back to you, just like that. So it makes decisions easy. R. R would stand for role model. I mentioned earlier. The best thing we could do in life is choose the right heroes, choose the right role models, or risk takers. We have to be risk takers. Leaders are risk takers. In terms of role model, this is perhaps the most essential instrument to encourage aspirants to demonstrate commitment and dedication towards any cause. Role models are powerful catalysts in raising confidence, enthusiasm, and the energy level of an entire generation. Risk takers. Well, ships are safest in harbors, but they're not meant to be there. They have to stay long and hard and face many stormy seas to reach the comfort of a desirable destination. Hence, progress requires us to take calculated risks and bold moves. S. Solutions oriented. Leaders are solutions oriented. We have to be interested in other people's issues. We have to be empathetic. Leaders are empathetic. And we apply our knowledge or domain experience or access and bring it to address other people's issues. H. Leaders are honest. And first, in terms of honesty, one has to be honest to themselves first. So we have to be intellectually honest. Integrity. Well, when I think of integrity, three things come to mind. Come to mind. Long term, for any relationship to be long term sustainable, whether it's a relationship with your spouse, your children, your employer, your employees, friends, three conditions have to be present. Number one, there has to be integrity. Number two, there has to be intelligence in how decisions are made. And number three, there has to be mutual passion. And if the first is not there, then if the integrity is not there, it will be used, the other two will work against you. P, persevere. Principle, principles, passion. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has always solved and will always solve the problem of the human race. Calvin Coolidge. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are some of my thoughts when it comes to doing well and being taking on the responsibilities of a leader. In the next phase, Michelle will ask me some questions about the second aspect of my mantra, Prosperitas cum caritate, which is the cum caritate portion, which is caring, doing well and doing good. Prosperity with care. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, thank you, Michael, for such an electrifying message. Your words, they'll forever inspire and awaken the fire that burns within all of us. One thing that I'm getting from your keynote address is that many role models come into your life. However, you have said, I will forever be beholden to my mother for her leadership by example. This is a very profound statement in today's world as the status quo is being shattered. Can you take us through a journey in your shoes to understand the significance of your mother in shaping you to be who you are today?
Well, my mother is a very special person. And as I said, when she was born, she was it was just her and I. And in Jamaica at the time, the trajectory for young women would be to leave Jamaica. If they have a child, they would leave the child with grandma and go to England to do nursing. She said, no, I'm not leaving my son. If we're going to go down, the two of us will go down, right? So she stuck with me. So for the first 7 years of my life, it was just her and I. And this lady, why is she such a strong role model in my life? Because she has high standards of expectations of herself and her kids. She leads by example. She doesn't take the easy road. She's guided by her principles and she is resolute. So when I think of a successful person, someone who is committed to principles, committed to family, she and my stepdad worked for 28 years, 7 days a week, 3 jobs, without taking a weekend off for vacation, just to give their children an education.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, you alluded to something further when you were giving us your address. And I take this as circumstances, chance, and you mentioned being born on January the 3rd to Jamaican parents. You are a gardener and a groundskeeper, you're an engineer, and you're a successful entrepreneur. Your alignment is different than other people's alignment. Can you comment on that alignment and why it's different and it's made you who you are today?
My alignment, Michelle.
Yes.
Well, I'm a driven person. And I, you know, when it came to me quite clearly on March the 3rd, March the 23rd, 2002, I was in Kingston, Jamaica, at the Minister of Finance's office. And I was just about to write the check to buy the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica. Now, to put things in context, in 1960-61, my stepdad applied for a job as a teller in the bank, and he was refused. And he's very bright. He was refused because of the color of his skin in Jamaica. And now, on March the 23rd at 2 p.m., his son was there, and my parents were there, my family, my 8 siblings were there, and his son was just about to buy the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica. So I thought those thoughts, many thoughts flashed through my mind at that point in time. And I thought, oh my gosh, how is this possible? Well, 3 answers came to mind. Number one, it's possible for reasons that I had nothing to do with. Number one, I was born in a country, Jamaica, that made me a confident human being. I could have been born in many other 200 other countries in the world that would have immediately at birth truncated my confidence. I didn't choose my country. I was born in that one that made me a confident person. Number two, I was born to a woman, a lady, teenage woman who had high standards, values. She had high expectations of me. And she led by example. I was blessed to have been born to that woman. I could have been born to millions of other women on that date that didn't have her standards, and I would be the same person. So she, because of who I was born to, I'm a confident person. I didn't choose my mother. I was blessed to have had that one. Thirdly, I was born in an era in which I can own a pencil, a shirt, a pair of shoes. I can be educated. Had I been born 250 years prior, I would have been owned. So these things are not missed on me. I am very conscious. So I thought to myself, oh my gosh, Mike, you're here for many reasons that you had nothing to do with. You're just highly blessed. So what are you going to do with these blessings, Mike? Are you just going to shower them on yourself? Or are you going to shower some on yourself and make sure that you live a life whereby you show empathy and care for those who are less blessed? So that's what drives me.
Amazing, amazing. And that really goes back to your mantra, prosperitas cum caritate, doing well by doing good. I see definitely a pivotal moment in your life where you can have gone one way, another way, and you chose to go the other way. And that must have been very pivotal because you must have sensed at that point in time that you could have taken another path, but you chose to take the path you took. Why did you choose to take that path when you signed that agreement for NCB? How was it pivotal in your world?
Well, the thought was so indelible that, my gosh, Mike, you're here for many reasons that you had nothing to do with. I committed that at that moment to do the following: to use the National Commercial Bank as a vessel to build a better Jamaica. And in so doing, uplift, be an example, use the National Commercial Bank as an example to uplift a country. And in so doing, I'm sure reciprocity would have prevailed, which it did.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Now, we have many viewers from around the world, from Germany, France, England, all over the Caribbean, the United States, as well as our beloved Canada. I'd be absolutely remiss if I did not ask you this question again with regards to wealth creation. You have been quoted as saying, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you will not achieve because you are in violation of the laws. And if you stay in violation of the laws, you'll end up in. Many of us are with pen and paper or iPads, and we definitely want to hear this framework one more time, as well as the laws that Portland and Mandeville follows so intensely. Can you please share this recipe one more time with us?
Well, Warren Buffett once said, when he was asked, Mr. Buffett, how come you're such a great capital allocator? He said the following, well, I'm a better investor because I'm a businessman. And I'm a better businessman because I'm an investor. In other words, you cannot be a great capital allocator unless you think like a business, you think like an investor, and you think like a business person. So here's how wealth creating business people think and act. Whenever an investment is provided, is presented to them, they're very mechanical. They say, okay, especially after they've spoken to, after they've heard the 5 laws of wealth creation, which I'm going to reiterate to you. They say, okay, I have this 5 laws of wealth creation that I heard from Michael Leachin, that whatever investment is being provided to me, I'm just going to make sure I pass it through to see if it passes through the sieve of the 5 laws, which now define investors' behavior. Number 1, is this a high quality business? I'm not interested in investing for the long run in anything but high quality businesses. Number 2, is it a business I understand? I'm not interested in investing in anything I don't understand, or I have to find someone I trust who understands it. Number 3, is it in a strong long-term growth industry? I'm not interested in investing in anything that isn't in a strong long-term growth industry, because a rising tide lifts all boats. Number 4, does it have a track record of using other people's money prudently? I'm not interested in investing in anything that doesn't have a track record of using other people's money prudently. And number 5, this business that you're presenting to me, is it one that I would cherish holding for the long run? So those are the 5 principles of wealth creation. Now, let's talk about the characteristics of the business itself. Is this business run by an owner operator? Just think about any wealthy person, and the 5 characteristics I just went through with you, I'm sure would match that wealthy person you're thinking of. And now think about the business that is owned by that wealthy person. And I'm sure these 10 characteristics I'm now going to expose to you will match the business that is owned by that wealthy person you're thinking of. So firstly, that business is run by an owner operator. Secondly, there's heavy concentration of ownership in that business. Thirdly, there's personal identification between the business and the owners, and the owners and the business. Fourthly, the business is run in an autocratic manner. Decisions are made in an autocratic manner. Fifthly, there's low turnover of management. Sixthly, it's entrepreneurial. Seventhly, the business thinks long term. Eighthly, business is always thinking one thought: growth, growth, growth. How do I grow this baby? Ninthly, the compensation of management is very symmetrical in terms of risk reward. When the business makes a great capital allocation, the net worth of the shareholders increases. If it's a bad capital allocation, the net worth decreases. It's tantamount to flip a coin: heads management wins, heads the business wins, tails the business loses. Risk reward symmetrical. And lastly, 10thly, validation of success for the business would be a function of revenue growth, margins, profits, customer satisfaction. So those are the 10 characteristics of wealth creating businesses. And all we have to do is, when we look at our own business, make sure that those 10 characteristics are present, or if they're not, we work towards them. That's how we create wealth. That's how the business will create wealth. And when you are being presented with an investment idea, make sure the business that is being presented to you have those 10 characteristics. And once you have that framework, 5 laws that govern your own investor behavior, and the 10 characteristics of the businesses that wealth creating businesses, put together, you have 15 principles. You need to get 15 of 15 to get it right. That's what we have done. That's the methodology as to how we have created 4 unicorns and 2 multi-billion-dollar businesses.
Wow. So just follow this framework and this recipe, and we know we're on the right path at the end of the day. Now, I've got a question for you.
There's one moment, Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Buffett once said, "What I do is simple, not easy." It's because it's not easy to stick to a framework over the long run, because you have lots of distractions every day that will drag you away from your framework, including professional advisors.
So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we go back to our framework and we stick to it and we don't deviate.
Yes.
So, okay. So when we look at businesses, and I'm going to be touching on a business that you're on the board of, and we look at the framework, there's unique businesses that exist, and one unique business that I'm going to talk about is ITM that I would like to ask you about. Now, cancer hits every one of us, whether it be personally, a mother, brother, father, sister, someone dear to us. We've all been hit by cancer. And there's different treatments that are out there, but there's one unique company that seems to stand out called ITM. And it uses targeted radionucleotide therapy, from what I understand. However, this really follows the principles. And to follow the principles, you say, of a unicorn. I want you to tell us a little bit about ITM and how it fits the framework for wealth creation.
Okay, one of the things that we don't pay attention to enough when we invest is really the industry in which we are investing in. As I said, principle number 2 from the 5 laws, law number 2 is, law number 3 would be, make sure that when you invest in businesses that are in strong long-term growth industry. My own personal experience was the following. I'm a baby boomer. So baby boomers are people who were born between 1946 and 1964. So I'm about the median age of the baby boomer population. And the baby boomer population is the largest cohort in the North American population. So whatever the baby boomers are doing will affect the economy. So in 1983, I was 32 years old. And at 32 years old, we had the largest, I'm just one of the large, I'm amongst the largest segment of the population, the baby boomers. And let's say I was a median age at 32. So think about, what do 32-year-old families do? What are they doing? They're consuming. They're buying a house, they're buying a car, refrigerator, stove, etc. They're making house. So we had the largest percentage of the North American population engaged in the same endeavor, consumption. So we had a consumption boom in 1983. Now, if you want to be successful, you have to go where the puck is going. So now I thought to myself, well, this is an easy way to identify a trend. Just follow the progress of the baby boomer through their life timeline. So at 32, this is what they're doing. How about at 40? What will they be doing at 40? What do 40-year-old people think about? Well, they think about, I need to make sure I'm saving for my retirement. So I thought, well, the coming boom, because all the largest segment of the population will be thinking, I need to make sure that my nest egg is in place. That is coming in 8 years. So how can I participate in that coming boom? Well, I can buy a bank or invest in a bank. I wasn't thinking of buying a bank then. Or I can invest in an insurance company, or I can buy financial services generally. Or the bullseye though would be to invest in wealth management companies, which is right at the epicenter of that boom, which is what I did. I bought a company in Canada called Mackenzie Financial Corporation, and the rest is, and I built an entire business based on that assumption. The rest is history. So today, and by the way, the track record would have been in 1983, today, the wealth management industry in Canada, as measured by assets under management in the mutual fund industry, is 1.6 trillion. In 1983, when I first bought, it was 5 billion. So it has increased by 300 times. As I said, a rising tide lifts all boats. Today, I'm 70. What do 70-year-old people think about? I want to live long. Healthcare. So that healthcare is going to be a long-term growth industry. We know that because the largest segment of the population, the baby boomer cohort, they're now all thinking the same. What is the big bullseye of within healthcare? Oncology. Because cancer is going to be a growth area. It's a growth area. So, but the traditional modalities for treating cancer would be, number one, external beam radiation, which fries your body. Number two, chemotherapy, which poisons your body. So they are ripe for disruption. Both of those modalities are ripe for disruption because they have been around for nearly 100 years. So what is a new type of treatment? Well, as Michelle mentioned, it's called TRT, targeted radionuclide therapy, or precision oncology, which is certain cells, certain types of cancer cells, they have a receptor on them. And what we do, we find a protein or peptide molecule that is attracted to those receptors. The metaphor would be a magnet and iron shavings. So once we identify those proteins, we can now attach to the protein and a radioisotope, gallium-68. The protein takes the gallium-68 to the cancerous cells and only the cancerous cells, wherever they are in your body. And the gallium-68 will now lights up on a PET scan. So we now can see exactly where the cancer is in your body. So once we can see it, it's proof, it's confirmation that receptors are there. And once we can see it, we can treat it. So what we now do is substitute the gallium-68 and replace it with another radioisotope by the name of lutetium-177. So the peptide takes the lutetium-177 to the cancerous cells, wherever they are in your body, and the lutetium-177 emits beta rays, which are 2 millimeters in length, and it kills the cancerous cells and without harming, because the beta rays are 2 millimeters in length. It does not harm neighboring good cells, so you don't have the side effects. You don't lose your hair. Your body isn't poisoned. So that is TRT, and that industry, as I said, will be the new wave of oncology. In Europe, it's been practiced for the last 15 years, primarily by Dr. Richard Baum. So I went to Europe in 2018. I was invited there, and I saw this company, ITM, and they explained to me that it was located on the campus of the Technical University of Munich, TUM. Within half an hour being on TU at the campus, I found myself in the Bavarian government nuclear reactor, showing me how lutetium-177 is made. Long and short, I said to management, the owners, the shareholders, I would love to be a part of this company. And they said, Mike, we would love for you to be a board member. So today I'm a board member of this company that is basically the infrastructure to this new modality of treating cancer. You will read, now that you're alerted to it, you're going to see it more often. And you will see this will eventually supplant the traditional ways of radiation, external beam radiation, and chemotherapy.
Wow. Well, I know we're running out of time and I'm getting buzzed in. I want to hear more about this. This is so engaging. We look forward to continuing this dialogue. But I have one last question, and thank you again for sharing that with us. Positivity and philanthropy is a message that is coming out of our discussion today, and I know is deep within your core. There's one thing that you can leave everyone with today as we close off. What would that be?
It would be all of us in this audience. We're here for many reasons that we had no choice in. We're absolutely blessed. Ask, we have to ask ourselves the question, what am I going to do with all these blessings? Am I going to shower them on myself? Am I going to shower all of them on myself? Or am I going to make sure that, yes, I take care of my family? I reap the benefits of the blessings, but I show empathy and care for the first concentric circle being my family, the second concentric circle being my community, my province, my country, and my world. Prosperitas cum caritate. Thank you very much.
Michael, thank you again. Doing well whilst doing good. Clearly a message we've all heard today. We welcome you back again the next time we have an event. And for now, I have to say adieu as we must break for 15 minutes. Thank you, Michael, for all that you've done in terms of leadership, doing well while doing good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Michelle. All the best.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Now on to our high-powered speaker panel on diversity in brand design. It is my pleasure to introduce you to President and Partner Elise Boulet and Christina Esu, Director of Strategy and Insights from Pigeon Brands, who will be joined by Faye Amarante, Head of Brand Design and Creative Director for Brand Elevation for Danone North America, and her colleague Fiona O'Brien, Director of Marketing for Danone Canada. And now I will turn it over to our moderator, Christina. Take it away.
Hear anything? Can you guys?
I can.
There's Christina. I can't hear Christina.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jim. And thanks everyone for joining us today. My co-panelists and I are so excited to be speaking with you about a topic that we're so passionate about, building diversity into brand design. And we'll kick off with a quick round of introductions, starting with Fiona from Danone.
Hi, I'm Fiona O'Brien, and I'm the Director of Marketing on our coffee business here in Canada.
Hi, I'm Faye Amarante. I am the Head of Brand Design at Danone North American, Creative Director here in the US.
Hi, my name is Elise Boulet. I'm president of Pigeon. Our offices are in Canada and in Mexico City.
And my name is Christina Esu. I'm the Director of Strategy and Insights at Pigeon, and I'll be your moderator today. There's just a slight delay on my side. I wanted to check in with everybody else. Is everyone hearing everything okay?
Yeah,
I hear everything
there is
okay,
a
but
delay
there
on
is
my
a
side
delay.
as well.
Okay. Okay, great. Next slide, please. Okay. So today you're going to hear the word diversity used a lot. And what's really important to know is that it goes beyond a specific race or gender or sexual orientation. It's really about true inclusion for all. And in the context of brand design, it's important to know that it's ensuring that the work that you make, and more importantly, the teams making it, truly reflect the world that we live in. And now more than ever, this is such an important conversation to be having at such a momentous time in history. And my co-panelists and I are so excited to speak with you about it today. We're going to cover three key things. The first is giving a bit of real talk and being vulnerable and talking about our personal experiences as diverse women in the design and communications industry, both positive and developmental. Things that we see blocking entry of diverse talent into the industry, and most importantly, ways we can create change, and how we can take all of that learning into the work that we do and create truly inclusive and diverse brand design. So we'll kick it off. Next slide, please. We need to go to the, if you could just go back to show all of the lovely ladies on screen. Thank you. So we'll kick it off with Faye or Fiona from Danone. Do you want to talk about some personal experiences that you've had in your career, both positive and some things that have been developmental that you've taken away as key learnings?
Sure. Did you want me to go first? Faye? I sort of have looked at my career trajectory and the intersection of what we're talking about today as two intersecting areas. So the growth of my own career and then the growth of this actual discussion about diversity. And I see them coming together right now in a perfect opportunity to talk about it. So if I discuss my career, when I first started, there weren't very many people that looked like me around the table. And that really had a huge influence on how I actually interacted with my coworkers, how I actually brought ideas and my own personal experiences to the table, because it was often a monolithic way of thinking because everyone looked the same. And I spent most of my junior part of my career attempting to fit into that monolithic way of thinking in order to be part of what was going on and not rock the boat. And there are moments in my career where when I did speak up or I did try to assert myself, that the stereotypes that are often considered part of how the world sees women and how the world sees specifically Black women became a bit of an issue, right? So assertiveness and a Black woman, kind of there's stereotypes there that hindered how I was able to actually speak my truth and be part of, growing the brands and the businesses that I worked on. And so, it took a long time for me to be able to find the right voice. But it also took an industry that has grown and having honest discussions and being able to have the right people around the table to be able to allow me to actually be the right voice at the table when it's needed, and to really grow my own career as well. So I think that I define it as the intersectionality of both my confidence and an industry that's now having honest and frank discussions about what diversity means, and how it actually helps build our businesses. So I think that that's the reflection that I have when I think about my career and where it's gone and where it's going to go.
Yeah, my view has a number of
Great, thanks so much. Faye,
mixes
did you have anything to add to that?
back in Brazil. Can you guys not hear me?
Yes, we can. Hear.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my journey has like
I can hear you.
it's
I can hear
a
you.
dual thing. I think we're having some issues because I'm having not only some delay on image but also on audio. But we'll
Go ahead,
try.
Faye.
Okay. So having grown up in Brazil and started a career as a
Yeah,
creative
no
in
worries. Keep
Brazil,
going.
it feels like very similarly to how a lot of women might find a lot of the times your decision maker, your client from the agency side was a white dude in a suit. And I remember still how intimidating it was the first time I presented in the boardroom. And it was one of those really long rooms and, really long tables. And there were no women represented in that decision-making table, and it was me and my boss, who was a white male, presenting work creatively. So it was always, having started a career in Brazil and moving here, there are the pieces around being a female in building leadership and creative, but also being an immigrant and facing the obstacles that come with every time you have an accent and someone mispronounces your name, and oftentimes the norm being the American-born, English-speaking, with the accent being oftentimes something that can be interesting in a conversation starter or can be a source of prejudice and discrimination. The good thing about it is that I can see it's not nearly enough, but I can see waves of disproportionate amounts coming in, and my team at Danone, the majority of my team is it's a bunch of creative females, and they're all badass. The dudes are awesome too, but there's a majority of women, and you see with you, Fiona, or with the other stakeholders that we have at Danone, there are some amazing women that I get to work with every day, but that was not the norm. That's not where I grew up in, per se, both in Brazil, which is a whole chapter that we can have a whole hour talking about, but also in the US, having been here and building a career in creative here.
So I might look a bit the blonde white girl here on the panel. But let's say that I'm a bit older than these fine ladies. And when I first started up my career, I was the odd one in the room as well. I was the female who wanted to have a voice, who had a lot to say, and I was facing those white dudes too. So I totally understand what women are going through today, and especially women of color. And back then, my father was the immigrant. He was the French immigrant from France. Um, but it was kind of the same feeling for me going into a room in Toronto or in New York and being that lady who had the French accent, little blondie, and you needed to get that credibility. But times change, and what I'm really happy today is, first of all, we're having this discussion in front of a lot of people from all around the world. And I'm super proud of our achievement at Pigeon, um, especially my senior leadership committee, who is well balanced today in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of diversity, where they come from. And it's even slightly skewed towards women. And it's the same thing towards the agency. So we can all act together and make some changes.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much for, such transparency and honesty. It's conversations like this that are really going to create change in the industry, and hope that some of the positive things we've experienced will continue, and maybe some of the more developmental things will stop. And when we think about the future, I'm so excited about all of the amazing design talent and marketing talent and creative talent that's out there. And what I want to talk about is, how do we get them excited about joining us? How do we get them excited about seeing this industry as a viable career? What are some thoughts that you have on how we can really open the door to everybody?
So I think that first and foremost, it's not just a desire to hire more diverse candidates. I think that there's something that as a whole we have to have a much more honest and frank discussion about, which is that the careers we choose are often generationally impacted. So, historically, the systemic ideas that have created where and how we choose our careers have happened over generations and generations of people. So as an example, when my mom, over 50 or 60 years ago, she'll be mad that I said how long ago it was choosing a career, she was told that women had a career choice of either a secretary or a nurse. And being a woman of color, there was no chance she was ever going to be hired as the secretary. So her choice was nurse. Now, while she had a very meaningful career as a nurse and quite rewarding, that was the only choice she had. And when it came to choices for me and my sister, they were often influenced by her own experiences or the things that she has experienced. If I hadn't come in contact with other people who influenced me into marketing, I would have chosen a field that's different than what I'm currently in. And that's mainly because I didn't know that these jobs existed. Because generationally, women and people of color have chosen jobs that are safe and places where they could be. So until we recognize that the influences of generational systemic issues are influencing the choices, and go around those and start to help people understand where careers are available, what's available, education that can start at a very young age, influencing people into design and marketing and spaces that if you grow up in particular communities, you're not actually familiar with. So I think that it's a much deeper than just looking at a couple of resumes and deciding that we're going to choose the most diverse candidate. You're actually probably not going to get the most diverse candidate unless we do the heavy lifting and the work that comes much longer before a resume shows up on a page or a student graduates from university with the right credentials. So I think that it's a much deeper rooted idea, and we have to do the work, the heavy lifting to get that space.
And it's actually a nice segue to something I wanted to inject in the conversation. As part, we're a member of the ICA and the A2C. Those are agency associations in Canada. And we've been doing some webinars on identifying the bias towards hiring people of color or diverse origin or gender. But we've also been having a lot of discussions, and one of the things we identified is similar to what Fiona was just saying, is that some people just don't know like how rich our industry is and how we need them. I just look at myself when we receive resumes. I don't receive a lot of resumes from a lot of diverse origins. So we identified it as an industry and we're working on it. For example, at presenting all of those great positions that you can occupy in the creative side, yes, on the agency side, but also on the client side, right there at high school. So at least you know it exists, because we used to concentrate on university, but at university you already kind of know where you're heading. So if you want to become a doctor, you're not going to change just there to become an art director. So working at the high school level makes a whole difference and just presents all of the opportunities there are. And so then we receive more resumes. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now. And I feel it's so important that we have a better representation, because what we do is supposed to be mirroring the life of everyone, all the communities we live in. And if we don't have that diversity, we won't be able to do so and be meaningful in our lives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's a great
There's
point.
something
Starting at the school
around
level is so imperative.
you can't produce work for a evolving diversity based society where there are all colors, all walks of lives, all religions. You can't create work that is relevant. You can't build brands that are relevant to this world if who is creating the work doesn't reflect that. We joke a lot about, like, and so many times you see a bunch of white people trying to solve the black problem, and a lot of Catholic people debating what might be an issue on anything else in other religions. So what I think is super important from a creative leadership perspective is that not only, to Fiona's point, not only we're making a very conscious effort to go into the deep roots of how do we make those careers relevant and available. How do I make sure that I go to communities where if I go to universities that are only in the coasts and I never go into the Midwest, I might never be able to get a perspective. If I recruit junior designers from all places, it might be a very different story. How we construct those teams is so important, and I think it's very inspiring to see. We can talk about Biden as a candidate for all we want, and we're not here to discuss politics, but the reflection of his cabinet and how diverse it is, and how many women of color, how many we have Pete Buttigieg, who could be the first openly gay Secretary of Transportation. There are so many different places and so many different dimensions that we see there, that I'm just hoping that we start learning on how to seek for diversity, welcome diversity, not just for the sake of checking boxes, but for the sake of creating work that is really relevant and posed to make a difference in the world. Because if my team is just a bunch of white males or white women trying to create for a world that has all the colors, all the walks, all the creeds, we're never going to be relevant, and ultimately we're designing the future. So that's what's inspiring, I think, from what we're talking about.
Yeah, these are such great points, because it's important to start at the school level to really understand and kind of understand what those blocks are, and inspire youth at all levels, especially as young as possible, to get them to see that this is a viable industry. And I think self-education is also really important. So it's investing in diversity and inclusivity training for yourself, and not necessarily defaulting to the people of color on staff or in your social network. And it's also not a static issue. These are things that are constantly changing. So it's making sure that you're staying up to date with the reality mentality and you're continuing to educate yourself so that you can build teams, as everybody has mentioned, that reflect the world that we live in. Because if everybody's sitting around the table, even if everybody is diverse, if everyone has the same point of view, there's going to be blind spots or unconscious bias that unfortunately does get into the work. And we have seen, unfortunately, some brands make some missteps because of that happening. So I'd love to go to the next slide and we can just do a quick recap for everybody. So the key things to take away from our personal experiences as diverse women and in the industry, as well as really removing those barriers to diverse talent entering, is to take a bottom-up approach and start at the school level. These are things that you can do individually by volunteering or with your organization by starting as young as possible to really show them that this is a viable industry and get them excited about careers in marketing and design and strategy. There's so many great things that they can do. The second is to engage in intentional self-education, as I mentioned. Make those investments with the right leaders and the right resources to really understand how you can create change at all levels. Because as Elise said, we often don't see the CVs at the top of the list. So how can we make sure that we're really understanding ways to go into the community to find them? And lastly, making sure that the teams making the work really reflect the world that it lives in, because we have to move at the pace of culture and things are changing all the time. And inclusivity really comes from making sure that the work represents the world that we live in. Great. So we've learned a lot, we've reflected a lot. Listening and learning, I think, was a big buzzword sort of the last year. But what I wanted to talk about next is how we've all taken these learnings into the work that we do every day, whether it's in-house at Danone or at Pigeon, and how can we make brand design truly inclusive, authentic, and real.
So I think the first slide is an excellent example.
From Danone Canada is going to share a brilliant example with us.
And this, of course, is brilliant because it's actually a partnership between Danone and Pigeon, so a perfect example. So as we were discussing, the events of last year, something became very clear inside Danone, that we wanted to be able to represent our employees and our BIPOC employees. And so we partnered with, we had a quick discussion with Pigeon and we said, this is a project we're working on. We're creating an employee resource group, a place where we can support inclusive diversity, through education internally for all of our Danoners, development and community support. So we wanted to have an internal focus, but also a place where our BIPOC community, our BIPOC Danoners could actually support inside and outside. And so as we're joining this group and as we're creating this group, we wanted a way to visually represent exactly what we wanted to do and what our goals were. And so we partnered with Pigeon and we created this logo that represents exactly what it was that we were trying to do. We were becoming one Danone. And so we built on the premise of unity and inclusion while still having some, textual symmetry for recognition and visual appeal. So this is something that while we use it internally, it's actually something that represents for this group and the rest of the organization exactly all of the things that we want to do, both internally and externally, so that we can reach our goals. And so it was really just an example here of a perfect partnership between the two organizations, us saying what we needed and wanted and how we needed to represent this particular group, and Pigeon listening and really coming back with something that visually represents exactly what we wanted to become. And it takes us sort of, even a step back, the next slide, which I'll talk a little bit about, the values of our organization, because the truth in design can't come unless we're actually living and breathing the principles that we believe in. So Danone is the largest consumer-facing B Corp in the world. And there are pieces within that are intrinsically important to not only the company and how we function, but also how we partner with our agencies. And so, in order to work with us, Pigeon aligns to these values. And so when we talk about design and how we show up, both internally for the one piece and pieces that you're going to see in a couple of minutes, is these values actually come through. And in order to not only be diverse internally, but also be diverse externally when we design, we have to live and breathe these values, because putting something on a page or putting something on a pack, when you don't actually believe in what you're actually doing, it's not going to come through in an authentic and genuine way. So we live our values, we believe that they have to come through, and that our brands are then synonymous with these values, and our agencies that work with us and our designers, our internal designers, live and breathe these values. And that's where we start to see work that, really becomes much more diverse. And on the next slide, which I will pass over to Faye, we started to work on a barista line that had to live and breathe all of those things. And so, Faye, I'm going to pass it to you to take us into much more depth of how we got here.
Yeah, so this was a really special initiative that we started. I think we can all remember what it felt like when February and March came last year, and some of us were shocked, some of us were surprised, and some of us were scared of what was happening with lockdowns and everything. And at the same time, Silk was getting ready to do something real with baristas. So with the partnership from people like Fiona, from people internally at Danone North America and the US, like Olivia Sanchez, we worked with real baristas and real people out in the world to think about how might we bring a vision of inclusivity, bring a vision of creating work that reflects the world outside, and make something real that truly breaks the mold of how marketing and design generally are treated. So on the next slide, what we see here is how we approached the muse that we had, the baristas. So on the next slide, what we see is a quick summary of how we looked into the world of baristas. And this is just a quick recap on just thinking about how the coffee artist, they're a passionate person, and they're not a stereotype. They're not the hipster dreadlock ear expander tattooed dude or gal. They're grounded in art and self-expression. They believe that they have a voice in the world, and they believe that they have a platform, that because they are behind a coffee counter, because they're behind a coffee shop brand, they have a place in the center of a community. And that was really important to us, because we're talking about a whole category of people that almost instantaneously lost their jobs and or had their job scope severely reduced as far as we all went home to work remotely. So on the next slide, what we see is just really how we started like thinking about the world of this Barista by Silk idea. And on the next one, I'm gonna concentrate a little bit on the story, because the story is just something that informed the entire idea. So we're talking about pioneers of change, true change makers, know how to use their platform for good. In 1977, when we started this plant-based push in a bathtub in Boulder, it was considered a fringe idea. But we kept our eye on the prize of doing good for our bodies and the planet, and turned our milk into a movement. Amplifying good and pioneering positive change are still at the heart of who we are. We believe change starts with creativity and conversations that build community. Introducing Silk Baristas, created by baristas, for baristas, curated by Silk. We celebrate baristas' creativity and help amplify their causes by letting our brand become a platform to tell their story. Our packs become a canvas for their art to spark conversations in the coffee shop community. They will tell stories, express passions. Together, we'll pioneer positive change. So without teasing it too much further, because I know that, this is torture, on the next slide, we start seeing how, and this is how the Canada team has brought this to life, but it's kind of a shared vision and a shared idea of how we imagine the world in where a brand like Silk can bring really real inclusivity and an element of being human-centered, in a sense that how we create this has very much the barista and the coffee artist in mind in a soul and in a heart. And it's not just creating a product that is for them, but it's an entire idea. So the art that you see on the left side of the pack, on the render over there, it is actually a barista artist that was commissioned and asked to create this piece. And so we're really just opening the pack for it to become a canvas for that art form to come to life, and that becomes part of who they are. On the next page, what we see here is how it versions out, and we can talk about package design all we want, and there's awards and all of that, and we can get into that sense. But what I think is beautiful from a creative leadership perspective is that, first and foremost, the team crafting this work was a true representation of diversity. So we're talking about there were women, there were Latina, there were all kinds of walks of lives, there were all colors, all perspectives. It was a true exercise. There were a lot of dialogue pieces with real baristas, so we're not just here trying to solve the problem for the baristas. We're asking them what are you craving for, and how can we help in this moment of so much dire need. And then and it expresses itself beautifully. It's just a token of hope, and I believe it starts showing up in a different way that brands oftentimes don't have the courage to do. Why would you donate your entire pack for an art form? Well, a few brands are doing that, and Silk is doing it too. On the next page, what we see here is how it takes over the entire pack. Again, this is the Canadian version, so we see a lot of English and French here. But what we see is the feature artist right there. So Franco is an illustrator, and he is based in Montreal. And Fiona was talking about how wonderful and just really talented this guy is. And he created those pieces, and now they're in full display. And we're loud and proud displaying them side by side with him. And that's an idea that I believe can be inspired for everyone inside in Danone, but also outside in the world. So on the next slide, oh, sorry, I'm done.
We could talk about it all day.
Thank you so much for. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, when you showed us the work initially, we were so impressed. We loved it, and we're so proud to partner with you guys because you really walk the talk with the ERG group that you mentioned, and then work like this. It's really exciting to see all of these great learnings happening, and it's not going to be solved overnight. It's something that's going to be incremental, and again, you're doing such an amazing job incorporating that as quickly as you can. So thanks for sharing that amazing project with us. And if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. The next thing we're going to talk about is avoiding cultural appropriation. And the reason I'm sharing this is that at Pigeon, we're really lucky to work with clients across North America, South America, Asia, and beyond. And sometimes creating inclusive and diverse work means incorporating cultural equity from other cultures. And I'm sure we can all think of examples of brands that have done it with the best of intentions, but unfortunately, it maybe didn't strike the right chord. So there's 3 very simple ways that you can do this. In our case, sometimes it's about bringing cookies to life in Mexico or bread to life in India. But the first thing we have to do if we're excited about using a specific name or icon or symbol is really do our research and understand the significance and the sensitivity around those elements. Dig deep, really understand if that element is going to offend anybody, if there's any risk associated with it. And the second thing is to then do, an internal sense check and really ask yourself, is this really connected to my brand? It sounds great, it looks great, but is it connected to the true origin story? Are we profiting off culture that doesn't represent our company? And if that's the case, it might not be the best decision. But if you check the first 2 boxes, the last thing to do, if you can, is to consult relevant cultural groups. Share it with them, get their opinion, have an open dialogue. And these are 3 very easy ways to ensure that when you are incorporating cultural equity, you can do it with respect and reverence. So if you go to the next slide, we can share an example of how we've done this at Pigeon.
Yeah, we could have shared some examples that are bolder. We're actually working with a number of clients who are reflecting on how their brand come to life in terms of cultural appropriation. But we wanted to share this example, which was actually the best of show last year at this event. It's for dainty rice, a commodity rice, rising up to a more different differentiated option with risotto, sushi, etc. But the story of dainty rice is really about where it comes from. It's about variety. It offers the biggest variety of rice in Canada. So everything that we developed for the packaging was about that. But here, what you can see it's that it's designed with reverence and respect. It avoids stereotypes, although it has a lot of tradition in it. You really understand right from the get-go what we're trying to say, but it's a good balance between those traditions and modernity. So it creates something that's very impactful, that resonates with the consumer, and tells a very interesting story at the same time.
Thanks, I love that example. Well, thank you so much for everybody for joining us today. We're getting towards the end of the conversation, so I wanted to just extend, my sincere thanks to our co-panelists from Danone and my partner Elise from Pigeon. And what we'll do is a quick wrap up of the key learnings and then a quick Q&A. Next slide, please. So we've talked about a lot, but for all of you to take away individually and with your teams, there's 6 key things you can do to build diversity into brand design. The first is to ensure the right diverse voices are at the table. So really ensuring that that team reflects the world and ensuring that you're asking those hard questions and having those really honest conversations, checking in with relevant cultural groups. Things like that are really going to help you make sure that you're making the right decisions and create work that's really going to connect with consumers. The second is to start from the bottom up, and that's influencing at the school level as early as possible, as we talked about. And as I mentioned, you can do this individually on a volunteer basis or getting your organization involved. As well as engaging in intentional self-education, looking at industry groups or external partners that you can bring in to speak with your teams, to speak with yourselves, to make sure that you're really providing inclusivity and diversity into everything that you do. And then I think Faye was going to cover the last 3. I'm not sure if there's a delay, so I'll jump in if that makes it easier. The 4th one was putting diversity at the core of corporate values. So like the One Danone initiative, it's about really starting internally, having those conversations and making sure they're ongoing and continuous so that if there's an open dialogue and those blind spots start to really erode. The 5th one is to ensure that brand design and packaging reflects the world that we live in, whether it's just creating, rice packaging with respect for the culture that we're evoking, or looking at, the barista program as a great example of really bringing the community into the work that we do. These are really great examples of ways you can do it sort of on a small level or with a bigger movement. And then lastly, it's moving at the speed of culture. Diversity is not just about a single race or sexual orientation or gender. It's about true inclusivity for all, and this world is rapidly changing, and it's making sure that you're changing along with it. So if we go to the next slide, there's two key questions that came in from the audience that we wanted to answer. When we talk about, building diversity and inclusivity into design, it's a great topic, but number one, why is this good for business? Why is this so important for us to make sure we're doing? And the second is examples of brands doing this well. So I'll open the floor to our group to have a quick discussion about this.
Well,
I think the
first
first
thing
question
regarding
is very interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's been something that we touched a little bit about, but when we're talking about bringing diversity into the decision process, we all have examples in our head, and I won't name names, but we have like huge examples of brands that really didn't do it well. And imagine the costs. Imagine how it can be hurtful to your brand, whether it be in communications or on your pack, when you have to redo everything. But then even redoing everything sometimes is not even an option. Sometimes you just have to kill the brand. So like doing it right from the get-go is definitely a good business decision.
Exactly. And I think too, in an increasingly competitive space where consumers make very informed choices, people are going to choose the brands and the companies that they believe in, that align to their own values, whether it's, you know, a nice pack on shelf, or it's a company that actually lives and breathes that design choice and that forward-facing communications. It's important to understand that people are also going to check what you're also doing and what you stand for. So, you know, cultural appropriation or concerns about your company not actually living and breathing those values, consumers know, and they make a choice with their wallets for the world they want. And choosing brands that actually represent the world that they live in, whether they're a minority or they are, you know, they believe in certain values, has to come through in everything you do, or else really it's not good for business. People will choose not to choose you because you don't represent them or you don't represent what they believe in. And when we talk about the speed of culture, that is changing rapidly because people are informed on exactly what you have. They're exactly who you have on your teams, on your boards, on your design teams. People know and people understand. And you know, last year is a perfect example when companies came out and made statements about what they were doing about diversity. People spent the time, and you saw it on Twitter. People spent the 5 minutes it took to say, hey, so and so, you say that you believe this, but there's not a single person of color or a woman on your board. So if we're not living and breathing the values that we say, people will choose our competitor.
Absolutely. And then when you think about iconic brands, something doesn't become iconic in 2 minutes or 2 months. It becomes iconic over the course, and it survives the test of time. What's happening right now, and the companies and the businesses and the brands that understand the constant shift in dynamics and culture, those brands will be the ones that will survive and thrive to become the iconic voices of tomorrow. So when we were thinking about Silk, when we're thinking about So Delicious, when we're thinking about Horizon or Oikos, we can think about them as there's always this kind of funny, like the white mom between the ages of 25 and 65, that is like the demographics that we sometimes listen to in briefs. But the reality is the world is more and more and more mixed up. The reality of the U.S. population and the majority that will not be white, Caucasian, in a very short amount of time, is a reality that will come and stay. So we can either choose to stay in the past, or we can decide to build the future. But building the future is really tough because I have to check myself all the time. How am I infusing racist beliefs that I never even thought about before, and they're all seeping into the conversations that I have with my creative team? How am I, when talking with you guys here, am I checking all the boxes that I should be, or is there more? And then our brands, every single time we touch design in finessing a logo, or in choosing what the right casting for the next campaign really should be, we're making choices that start showing in the world what the world looks like. You know, the little girl that watched Kamala become vice president, she knows that she could be vice president, she could be a politician, she could be in the White House someday. That was the first time she saw that. The little black girl that saw that was the first time she saw that. And I'm not trying to say that packaging is the same thing as the inaugural address, but when we see the world designed with decisions that we make together in those boardrooms, we're painting those future brushstrokes.
Christina, you had anything to add?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think even when it comes to communications, just looking at the diversity of the casting. Yeah, sorry, there's a bit of a delay on my side. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying that when you look at the casting even of commercials these days, there's such a variety of family types now, of gender representation as well. So we're starting to see that permeate culture in lots of ways, whether it's packaging, whether it's communication, and also in really big moments in history, like you mentioned with, with the US election. So it's a really important time for us to be having this conversation. And I think we all have a role to play at our respective organizations, as well as to the audience, thinking about how you can create that change in your organizations, whether it's how you hire, whether it's how you create the work, whether it's the education you take on to kind of remove those blind spots, but just keeping this top of mind. And what's great is no one is expecting anybody to have all of the answers. We are all figuring this out together, and it's having open, honest conversations like this that are really going to create change. And I think I admire companies that when they have made missteps, they own it, they accept it, they make change as quickly as possible, because perfection is not going to be a reality. And when we kind of, the segue into the next question was companies that we think are doing it well. I'm thinking of an old example, and I'd love to hear from you guys, but MAC Cosmetics was always a great example of one that was celebrating lots of different cultures, racial groups, sexual orientations, artistry, creativity. And when you talk about iconic brands, they still are in the makeup space. And there's a lot of indie brands that are popping up that, are taking a page from the work that they've done to be as inclusive. So I'd love to hear from the group. Are there any others that we can share with the audience that are good examples to think of as we go away and incorporate the learning from the talk today?
I mean,
I
I
think I
applaud.
always loved Mac. Go ahead.
I applaud every brand right now revisiting racial loaded or racist icons. So we're talking about the Angeminas and the Uncle Bands of the world. It's just so important, and the fact that it existed for so long, to me, is appalling. So it's just great that it's happening. It's not easy, and it's hard because like it's easy to look at a mirror and recognize that holy crap, like we've been showing in full display those icons, and it's an issue. So those are some of the, I think, highlights of it became a mandatory over the last year or two, that those very honest mirror-like conversations happened.
And finally, without going into maybe a specific brand, I just wanted to finish this with the fact that if you lead with integrity and you look at your brand truth and you tell a real story, people will reward you. And the other thing is that if you've built your brand story onto something that seemed to be like perfect at the time, but nowadays seems a bit more shaky, people will reward you for saying it, that you're not perfect, and acting on it. They will reward you way more by doing that than just trying to camouflage everything, saying, "Oh no, that's real and that's great." So let's look at it through the lens of truth and authenticity. Let's lead with integrity, and we're going to be part of the solution.
Great.
That's great. Well, thank you again to all my co-speakers for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone in the audience for tuning in today. And I will throw it back to Jim, who's going to announce some of the winners from our PAC Global Leadership Awards, which is super exciting.
Welcome back, everyone. It was an exhilarating morning. Michael, we are so grateful for your inspirational storytelling. And Michelle, thank you for being an exceptional host. And how about the Danon Pigeon discussion? I love the One Dan One tagline, One Danon. Very, very clever. An excellent model of diversity and inclusion in action. Well done. Thank you for sharing the challenges, the best practices, and lessons learned. Christina and Elise, we are grateful for hosting this exceptional panel. Congratulations. I'm now delighted to share with you and recognize the amazing 2021 PAC Global Leadership Award winners and the artists and innovators, the creators, and the storytellers. The PAC Awards date back to 1952. We believe they are the oldest packaging awards in North America. They were created to celebrate the craft of package brand design and innovation. So let's get the party started. This year, our entries were sold in 41 countries. Our winners are located in 5 continents and 9 countries, including from down under in Australia and their neighbor Singapore. Europe is represented by Belgium, France, Switzerland, and the UK. Brazil is representing South America, and Canada and the US, North America. These exceptional entries were critiqued and scored by 79 judges located in 12 countries. Thank you for your dedication in scoring the award winners. Judges, you'll get to see the results of your work over the next 3 days. And thank you to the PAC Awards Executive Committee, who provides guidance in their development of this summit and who selects the best of show winners. They essentially are my bosses. PAC Awards feature 2 key categories: brand marketing, which has 8 subcategories, and package innovation with 3 subcategories. Within each subcategory, best-in-class winners are selected. We call them BICs. We also select 2 best of show winners called BOSS. Of course, they're the boss. 1 in brand marketing and 1 in package innovation. Each winner will be receiving a uniquely crafted award. And this year, to accommodate the rapid growth in international popularity and to highlight the exceptional quality of entries, a new award level was added. It is called the Award of Distinction. We call them AODs. Winners will be receiving a PAC AOD certificate. Today, we will be celebrating the nominees and winners in the brand marketing, new brand, and limited edition categories. And now for our first category, new brand beverage. The nominees are and the Award of Distinction goes to Real Pops and Real Sips by Pigeon Brands. And the best-in-class winner in this category is Poland Springs Origin by Nestle Waters America. One of our judges made the following comments: "Well done. There is a very natural and modern feel to the design. There also appears to be a sense of artistry with the illustrative style of the trees and reflections within the water. The use of silver to cube premium quality, as well as the very simple yet elegant call-out for Maine and established 1845 in the structure, are all done with discernment. Congratulations, Poland Springs Origin."
Hello, I'm Yumi Clevenger-Lee, Chief Marketing Officer of Nestle Waters North America, and I am thrilled to accept this global award on behalf of the Poland Spring Origin team. First, I'd like to thank the PAC Global Awards for this recognition, along with all of my coworkers at Poland Spring and everyone who helped contribute to the creation of this innovative product design. Our beloved Poland Spring brand has been synonymous with 100% natural spring water in the Northeast for more than 175 years. And now with Poland Spring Origin, we've introduced the crisp and refreshing taste of our water to the rest of the nation. Poland Spring Origin is packaged in a beautiful 100% recycled and recyclable bottle, demonstrating our commitment to sustainability. Plus, its ergonomic packaging was designed to be both comfortable to hold as well as beautiful to look at. I'm excited to say that we've just launched a new campaign that embodies the spirit of Maine, our love of nature, and our commitment to pushing the industry standard forward and responsible design. You may have seen our campaign already, and if not, I hope you get to see it soon. Thank you so much for this award.
Next, we have the new brand food category. The nominees are and we have 3 Award of Distinction winners. Congratulations to Liva Make Branding Design, Joy by Sarah Lee, Brand Opus Australia, and Holy Pierogi, Marks. And the best in class goes to Go-Go Quinoa, entered by Pigeon Brands. Wow, love this so much, said one of the judges. Very exciting to see a great, simple, and compelling design prevail. It's a big idea, it's bold, it's arresting. I would stop in my tracks if I walked by this in a store, and I'd probably want to buy the full set of flavors. So much personality, so much buzz. I just want to share and talk about this. This will likely be the highest score I give in the set I have to judge. Excellent.
Sé que el calor no es amor, entonces días no existen con placer.
And we had a tie for best in class. Go Slow, entered by Marks. Congratulations. Simple, premium, well-executed design. Love the use of pattern and color across the portfolio. Unified by gold metallics. In a very competitive segment, this feels very unique and of the highest quality. The quality of design and execution begs trial. A unique name with a beautiful selection of premium typography to bring it to life. Excellent work.
Nuclei design director. What made Go Slow so wonderful to work on was creating not just an ice cream, but a whole brand experience. The vision was to create a local pioneer, inspiring consumers to invest in a lifestyle choice, not just a dessert.
Hi, Sarah Wildman, Group Account Director, and the result would not have been possible without the Danone Africa team trusting us with their brief and their vision. So a special thanks to the marketing team for the brave and innovative choices which led us to create this unique end product. Go Slow is also the local leader in Nigeria today, and this award really supports its success on a global stage.
I'm Andy White, the Exec Creative Director, not currently on screen. It's been a tough year for everyone in the design industry. So as an agency, we're not only lucky to have survived as a business, but winning an award is really inspiring for the whole team. It really vindicates all the hard work that's been put into it.
Thanks, Guy. Hi, I'm Gauthier Bosch, VP Strategy for Marks. And finally, we'd like to thank all the great Marks talents who work on this project, the strategy, but also design and structural team, but also a special thank you for the PAC Award Committee for electing our great work. Thank you so much, guys.
Up next, we have the new brand non-food category. And the nominees are... And we had 2 awards of distinction. Type A, submitted by Jump Branding and Design, and Scott's Turf Builder Custom Seed Blend from Bridgemark. And the best in class goes to Dove, Force Majeure Design. I know from consumer studies I have led that consumers recognize and are loyal to the Dove brand. This new design is innovative and is part of the larger Unilever start to shift to recycled materials. Recycled materials pose their challenges, and the Dove team came out with a recognizable product that remains true to the brand. The colored tops help differentiate the various products. Explicit imagery and consistent use of the colors keep the shelf visually appealing without being chaotic. It is clean, bright, friendly, and easy to identify. Congratulations, Force Majeure.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. We're very honored to accept this award that celebrates the redesign of the #1 body wash in the world.
And with that comes great challenge. When the Dove team came to us with this project, the pack had not evolved much in the last 5 years.
We designed 15 different variants to work together as a powerful range that showcases each of their unique benefits and ingredients.
We're also very proud to be a part of Unilever's goal to reduce its environmental impact. The body wash redesign introduced a new recycled and recyclable bottle.
The new Dove body wash design launched in January 2020, exceeding expectations. Despite the uncertainty of a global climate hit by COVID-19, Dove body wash had the highest growth in the category and sustained that growth throughout the year.
We want to thank the Dove team for a close collaboration that made this success possible.
So thanks to the jury and happy New Year to all.
And in this category, we had a tie for best in class as well. The envelope, please. Lemonade Family Farms by Lemonade Farms. It is clear that a lot of thought went into this packaging design. I really enjoy the logo design and old world feel. The innovative shape provided various methods to design and display on shelves, a very creative approach. The die-cut labels and font choice is rich in apothecary shops and products. The embossed labels create a pleasant tactile experience. Congratulations, Lemonade. Outstanding entry.
Hi, I'm Greg Benninger, and on behalf of Lemonade Family Farms, I would like to start by thanking the PAC Global Leadership Awards and the PAC jury for this incredible honor. I put everything I learned into these designs, and this award confirms that there is a place for unique and thoughtful designs from independent designers in new industries. Things were difficult for me before this job came along. As a disabled person, it was very difficult to find the right fit. So I'd like to start by thanking my brother Tim Benninger for bringing me into such a supportive and accommodating workplace. I'd like to thank Ed Modern, Alex Martin, and Ryan Dodds, and everyone at Lemonade Family Farms for their incredible support. I'd like to thank my parents and my family for everything they do for me. I'd like to thank Jacob Kalinko for taking such wonderful pictures of our packaging, and all my awesome friends. I couldn't have done this without you. A shout out to my mom and my mentors who taught me everything I know about design and encouraged me to go into this industry. I thank you. Thanks to everyone watching, the jury, the other nominees, the PAC Global Leadership Awards, and James Downham for this marvelous recognition.
And now for the last awards today in the limited edition category. And the nominees are the award of distinction goes to Cadbury's Dairy Milk by Marks. Well done, Marks. And the best in class goes to, envelope please, Tim Hortons Hero Cups by 500 Degrees Design Studio. And a judge said, the Tim Hortons campaign was timely, inspirational, and really well executed. Strong contender. Love the idea, one of the strongest in this group. I've seen this on the shelf and want to pick it up. The effective use of simple but crisp graphics creates an emotional connection to consumers through design and aesthetic. Well done, Tim Hortons. And again, we have a tie for best in class, and it is awarded to Cocoa Pops, Kellogg's. Finally, a smart, human-centric, inclusive design approach. Congratulations. Design is used for everybody's benefit, but it shouldn't be a limited edition. Make it a permanent solution. I'm looking forward to seeing this extended to all products internationally. Congratulations, Kellogg's.
Hi, I'm Pete Matthews from Kellogg's, and I'd like to say thanks to Jim and his team and all the judges for this recognition for our special edition Cocoa Pops pack, which was created for World Sight Day. When we set out on this journey, the number one objective was to raise awareness about the need for more accessible food packaging. And this award gives us another platform to keep that conversation going. So from the whole team at Kellogg's and all of our partners who made it happen, thank you.
Well, a big congratulations to all of our winners. These were truly outstanding submissions. And a big thank you again to our brilliant speakers earlier this morning and to all of you who have joined us today. A warm welcome to everyone from around the world. Before I close, as I mentioned in my opening address, we are asking you to partner with PAC in our efforts to build a more inclusive and just world. Following this summit, we will bring together motivated leaders to take action. Join us, please. I will see you tomorrow for an exciting morning hosted by HP Indigo. You will hear from a diverse group of speakers based in the US and Brazil sharing their amazing her-she story. And we'll go on a tour of HP's Alpharetta, Georgia Innovation Center. And of course, there will be more celebrations of our 2021 Global Leadership Award winners. So until tomorrow, be safe. Remember,